live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Switched On with me, your humble host, Paul Olowogboye. This is a podcast where I talk about anything and everything on my mind this week. And yes, this is episode 27 of the podcast. Really, really getting close to that episode 30, which was my goal for the end of the year to hit episode 30. So it's been fun. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing right now. So yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying listening to the episodes I create. And with that being said, just a quick recap of what my week has been like since my last episode. It's been good. Just been busy with work, life and stuff like that. Just, trying to make sure I just keep a good life balance. Christmas is coming. I know we're still in November, but I'm already kind of like in that Christmas festive season mode already. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to lights, fireworks. I'm just looking forward to good food, chilling with family. Just being that whole festive self. So looking forward to that, spending time with family. So yeah, it's been good. Over the weekend was out with a girlfriend and a couple of friends, and just went out, chilled. So yeah, just work life balance, just make sure all that is good. And just kind of like making inroads with a couple of avenues when it comes to life, when it comes to making connections, some of which would have an impact on what happens with my podcast as it goes forward as well. So yeah, got some ideas for some great episodes to come. I'm gonna have some guests on, so that will be good. I'm looking forward to creating those avenue of those conversations and then share with everyone that is gonna listen or watch my podcast on the various DSPs. But yeah, today's episode is kind of like a follow up of the last episode I did, which I touched on the World Cup and Qatar. And over then there's been stories, there's been stuff that's happened, and a lot of it is quite interesting for me because I quite I mean I I analyze quite a lot of stuff. I kind of digest a lot of information, and I kind of like look at where things don't really make sense or things make sense, or just kind of like call stuff out when I see stuff. And this is me kind of coming out to say, like, like no one is perfect. I'm not perfect. No one is perfect. There ain't no cancel. Things happen, reality. We have to find ways to kind of like, maneuver around stuff and have to make stuff better. But yeah, as we know, the World Cup is happening in Qatar right now. There's been a couple of matches. I think it kicked off on Sunday. And yeah, it's been interesting. I'm not really a big football fan in that sense because in the past I used to be heavily into football, especially when it comes to like World Cups, African nation and stuff like that, those kind of tournaments. But now I'm just like that doesn't really phase me that much. But it's been interesting to kind of see how things have developed around the story of Qatar hosting the World Cup. And for me it's just something that kind of made me feel very uncomfortable is the heavy-handed criticism that Qatar has faced um, in the past couple of weeks. And this is me coming to admit that Qatar is far from a great place as a country, as an establishment, as how things are run over there. For me, it isn't my cup of tea, but I'm well aware of how things are, the reality of it. Things are never as rosy as people try to paint it to be. Life isn't as rosy as people try to paint it to be. I try to live with the reality of what things are in front of me. And yeah, Qatar isn't really a great place when it comes to what we claim as human rights and like people's right to be who they want to be, to live how they want to live their life and stuff like that. But yeah, as we know, Qatar um, is a very small country. With a population of I think about a few million, but with a core with those that actually hold citizenship in the country, I think is about 330,000 people, but that hold citizenship in the country, but they do have a massive expatriate community there of like 2 to 3 million people. So and it's predominantly an Islamic country. So that is just the way it is. It was actually a former I think the word is protectorate of the United Kingdom. So basically, in a sense, it was ruled and governed by the United Kingdom until like I think it was like the 1970 something. I can't remember exactly the year or so. So yeah, Qatar is quote unquote a in my mind is quote unquote a sort of like early development stage of like a state, a sovereign state. But this is quite heavily, heavily gas producing sovereign state oil basically. got a lot of oil, so it's got it's got a massive footprint. But yeah, around basically, um, I I just I've always had this kind of like this issue with when people get very heavy-handed and criticize something without admitting that, you know what I mean, like not everyone is perfect. And this is not me trying to like cover up for the Qatari government or whatever the case might be. It's for me, their style and the way they want to hold things isn't really for me. I believe in people's right to be who they want to be, live how they want to live their life, be free to date whoever they want to date, be in relationship, and just be happy. You know what I mean? So far, you're not hurting anyone, but I'm well aware that that isn't the case for everyone, and that's not the case for everywhere around the world. Even in the quote unquote Western world, whereby we think everything is all nice and rosy, or where people try to make it look all nice and rosy, if you dig a bit deeper, you find out that there's quite a lot of issues, discrimination, sexism, homophobia, whatever the case might be, is way embedded in those areas. And I'm not trying to say like this is not me trying to say the West hasn't progressed in like human rights or whatever. It has progressed, but there's still a lot to be done. Which is why I've kind of looked at it sideways when I see a lot of people try to like criticize Qatar. Don't get me wrong, the way in which Qatar was granted to host the World Cup, we know it's quite dubious. And I mean, there was a lot of money. There's a lot of money, you know, I mean, a lot of fraud and stuff like that was done. But that was a time when they got that. You know what I mean, we can definitely scrutinize the process at which they got what they got. But we're here now, and it comes down to how do you protest in another person's country? And we've had people wanting to go over there and like they want to show solidarity with the LGBTQ plus community over there, which I totally, you know, I mean, cool. I'm in support of, show your support and stuff like that. But when when you have the government of the country saying we as a country do not support this, how do you then end up maneuvering around that situation? What sort of pressures or what sort of how do we get into a dialogue? And I think that for me is always where I want to go to is how do you have a dialogue? How do you get to have a dialogue without having to take such drastic positions? Because a lot of like I've been on I go online, I listen to what people are saying, I listen to how people are commenting about this, and a lot of it has always been around the sense of like, oh no, they are wrong, we need to cancel them. And I'm like, it's so easy for people that live in a bubble, in quite a safe bubble, to throw stones, to fling stones, without actually knowing how maybe your own system or your own country functions. And yeah, we had the England football team wanted to show, you know what I mean, wanted to show support by wearing an armband. And I thought, you know what, that's actually nice, you know, like I support, you know what I mean, like you want to wear an armband, go ahead. But then FIFA and the Qatari government came back saying, nah, we don't want this, because it was going to be like a one love armband supporting the LGBTQ plus community, and showing solidarity with them, which is all well and good. But then when but then it was so interesting whereby this was like heavy up there. We had people like, yes, I should do this, da da da. The England captain was like forefront of this. I mean, the FA team was like at the forefront of this, and we're gonna do this. And then the moment there was a pushback, the moment there was a pushback, it all crumbled. It all crumbled. And this is not just the England, this is the England team. There were a couple of other countries as well that literally had to like, you know what I mean, like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do this. And I think it was like like Wales was involved as well, Belgium, Germany, Denmark, and like some other teams as well weren't going to wear the armband once FIFA and the Qatari government has been like, no, we don't want this. And for me, it calls into question as are footballers the right people to front, or as celebrities or those that have a bit of fame? Are they the right people we need to put our expectations on to help fight a cause? Or are you putting them in a very, very compromising position. That's a debate that I'm open to have, because for me, I do feel like we have elected people in government to fight those fights. I don't expect to then put a a celebrity or someone with a bit of public status at the forefront of a fight I'm trying to fight, because I'm well aware that everyone is human, and everybody's risking something potentially. And I mean, there's been ways where people have protested at the tournament. For example, we had the Iraqi team, no, the Iranian team protesting the best way ever against not the Qatari government, but against their government in Iran that is cracking down on the civil rights movement over there right now by just not singing the national anthem. That was one of the most powerful moves I've seen any group do at that stage. But they did it knowing fully well that they're potentially risking their life. No, they are risking their life, not potentially, they are risking their life. Because the moment they go back home, these people could be executed, imprisoned, or executed and just disappeared from society. And that there is scary. But they had the balls to stand up and do that. Do that knowing fully well that, yo, this could be the end of us. For me, I mean, that's why, I mean, a lot of people have different things they're fighting for. And it's sad that they had to go do that, knowing fully well that they could end up being by the government. So it's scary. Scary that this is the case. But I do hope that they don't get, I mean, they don't get wiped out. Because that's what the Iranian government is potentially going to do. And there are hundreds of people that the Iranian government is looking to execute because of the movement right there that's going on right now. So I think there's so much ways whereby things can be done to protest, but at the same time, I'm well aware of the human element to it, and people do it in different ways. And over the week, since literally the World Cup has kicked off, a lot of things have been kicking at the back of my mind. In the last episode, I spoke about how um, for the construction of a lot of the infrastructure for the World Cup, a lot of migrant workers had to be shipped in, brought in, and literally made to slave, like in order to build this stuff. Paid cheap labor, literally paid pennies. Had some of them had their passport confiscated, com- taken off them. Them not break the English language, taken off them. Most of them are literally working themselves to death. A lot of people have died, according to reports. And the scary thing about it is not a lot was shown about that. Not a lot of light was shot or this thing was put on this. There was stuff in the news over the years, but not heavy criticism. We had the human rights organizations saying out the root of like, yo, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. We did not hear from FIFA. We did not hear from various countries and the football body in the government, this governing body to say, yo, listen, no, we don't want to do this. We're not going to go. If we know that this is what is happening there right now, we don't want to go. We can't support this. We can't support this. And for me, I feel very uncomfortable because I've said a lot of people talk about like, yes, nah, what I mean, like we don't support we don't support the government's crackdown when it comes to LGBTQ plus people. No, 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 we don't do that. No. The infrastructure that people are sitting in, even though you don't agree with it, the infrastructure you're sitting in was built off the back of quote unquote slave labor. Of quote unquote slave labor. I don't see people saying, no, I'm not gonna go to Qatar. I don't see people saying I'm gonna you literally sit in a place that was built, quote unquote, of the sweat and labor of people that weren't properly compensated. So how much did you give a fuck? How much do you actually give a fuck? Are you just gesturing for gesturing's sake? Because take for example the England team. The England team can say, you know what? Nah, we're not gonna go. We're not gonna go and support a government that has created this tournament, that has utilized people. A lot of people have died in the creation of the infrastructure. Basically, we're gonna be playing on a football field that has been built by slaves, by those that have been mistreated and stuff like that. No, we're not gonna do that. But that's the question: how far are people willing to? No, I mean, push for a cause. So it's just, I mean, it's just interesting. Might not be the right word, but it's just interesting, and that's fair to see. Like, there's just so much, and I think there has to be a lot more scrutiny done when it comes to actually picking who hosts the tournament. Because we can go back retrospectively and look at other countries as well that are quote unquote Western countries that are quote unquote, like, you know what I mean, oh, we're a lot more progressive and stuff like that. But some of these countries had some bad fucked up policies, some heinous policy. The UK, for example. I forget that. I think the World Cup in 1966 or whatever the case might be. Let's not forget, during that time, it was illegal to be gay, and also they had those signs: no Irish, no blacks, no dogs. So is anyone gonna have the full right to be like, yo, England, shut the fuck up? The UK, shut the fuck up. You ain't the mightiest of mightiest. You don't have the cleanest record for you to then go around pointing your finger at everyone else and be like, yo, 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 yo. Which is why I think it's all about a dialogue. You can't expect everyone to be at your level. This has to be a conversation, and you have to take people along with you. You can protest as much as you want, but if you don't have the right way of having a dialogue with people to actually show people that, yo, listen, it's not about beating you with a stick. It's about how can we have a dialogue in order for us to share this carrot. That's what it should be about. So, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be a lot done. Because what does that mean? Does that mean that FIFA should never ever grant any country outside the West any chance to host a global tournament anymore? Because you can't say China should host a global tournament if China is known to, you know what I mean, to put Muslims in concentration camps, to have slave laborers that are working fucking 20 hours a day. Most of the stuff and this and that they're building and shipping around the world are made of the back of those that are in concentration camps. Is that what you're gonna say? Are you going to pick the continent Africa and say no country in Africa should be able to host the World Cup because, as we know very well, not a lot of African countries are in support of LGBTQ plus. So, you know what I mean, we have to start asking ourselves a lot of those questions. If that's the case, then, I mean, and some of the commentary around Qatar, the heavy-handed commentary around Qatar, has been quite. I don't like to use the word Islamophobic to kind of push it in that sense, or just racist or whatever, but it does feel like that. It feels like you're belittling people, like you're demeaning people for who they are because of either the culture, and I mean the heritage or something like that. Which, you know, I mean, we can criticize something that doesn't stand up to the standard that we want it to be, whereby it comes to love, freedom of people to do and be who they want to be. But just some tones and some languages around it does feel a bit discriminatory, even though you're trying to you're trying to oppose a government that is discriminatory of some people's rights. You can't then pile on with your own words and be the same thing. So, and I mean, it's just something we have to be very careful of. But then, for me, the crux of it all, the reason why Qatar has been in my brain for a while now, because I'm well aware of Qatar has a heavy investment. This is what people don't want to really talk about. Qatar has a very massive investment around the world. And the UK, London, England, it's heavy. Which is why I always have the question like, yo, why is it that the British government wasn't really pushing for human rights when they had slave laborers working and trying to build this and this thing, build this tournament, build the infrastructures around this tournament? Because during this period of time, Qatar has been heavily investing and pouring in money, billions, into the UK economy. Most people are not aware of that. It's fucking shocking. Most of these celebrities and wherever that you see that we see them pointing their hands, criticizing Qatar and stuff like this, are the same people that are going to be supporting businesses that are heavily owned or have investment from Qatar. And those companies or businesses or whatever might not exist or might not have a leg to stand if it wasn't because of the investment that was coming out from Qatar. And there are quite a lot of them. Heathrow, I think, like is it Heathrow we're talking about? Heathrow Airport, Sainsbury's, Barclays, the London Stock Exchange Group, Canary Wharf, Harrods, the Shard. These are places that have Qatar money running it. So you know, what I mean, we have to be very. It's it's very it's a very complicated situation. A very complicated situation because the British government has allowed Qatar to come in and pour his money to invest in our country. Why are we then receiving? Why are we receiving money from a country that's quote unquote so awful? Why is the British government allowing such a massive investment from Qatar? If you believe this country is so awful when it comes to human rights, if you believe this country is so barbaric, it's in the fucking dark ages, it just it's not. And I mean, it's not worthy to host a World Cup or such a global stage and whatever the case might be. Then why the hell are we receiving money, investment from Qatar? In just the capital alone, in London, the city itself alone, Qatar is buying and just bankrolling a lot. It's like the Qatari government and the Al Tanin family have so much investment. Is it in hotels, the Savoy, um, uh, the Churchill Grove house suite, and a lot of other hotels around. I think it comes up to about 5 billion in investment. Like they are bankrolling a lot of these places. Is it retail stores, Valentino, luxury brands and stuff like that that are bankrolled by Qatari money. I'll put the link in the description to this that actually outlines areas at which the Qatari government and the Qatari family have investment in. It's crazy. The map looks wild. Is it a lot of mansions across London that is owned by the Qatari government? Basically, part of the whole housing market. Is it in the Canary Wharf group? I think they paid about, I can't remember how much like about 1 point something billion or something like that. Yeah, it says it right here. They paid about 1.1 billion for the HSBC HQ quarters in 2014. And then it took over the Canary Wharf group as well in of recent for about close to 3 billion. That is money being pumped into our economy. That's crazy shit. Right? Is it a shard? The shard is basically owned by the Qatari government. I mean, like, they've got so much money that they pumped into our economy. It's crazy. Luxury mansions here, and I mean urban development. They're pumping billions in urban development around London and the UK in general. Small scale investments here and there around the country. So you know, what I mean, they're spending a lot of money. They have investment in Barclays Bank. You know, what I mean, about close to 2 billion in Barclays Bank. Sainsbury's is one of the supermarkets that a lot of people like to run to buy stuff, partly owned by the Qatari government and some of the Qatari family. London Stock Exchange and stuff like that. So it's like we can't go around lambasting these countries, making them like sound like they come from the dark ages and stuff like that. And then we're then willing to take their money. Because basically you're taking corrupt money. You're taking basically what you're trying to say is, oh, you're a corrupt country that we don't like you because of your human rights abuse and stuff like that, but we're willing to take your money, acting like as if your shit does stink. So yeah, I think for me, it's this is why I am willing to have. I'm willing to sit down to have a dialogue and find ways of which you can push the conversation and push the discussion and help create a world whereby people can be who they want to be and live who they want, live how they want to live. But it's not about beating a country with a stick, because it never works. It never works. We saw what happened in Iraq. You invaded the country of Iraq, and I mean, you wanted to do revolution, you wanted to do all of that kind of stuff. The moment the military withdrawal happened, what happened? Everything collapsed. Everything collapsed and literally went back to how things were. All the fights and all the struggles that were made to try and make sure, like, I mean, in order for you to make sure like girls can go to school to get education, women can live freely of some sort with a bit of security and all that kind of stuff. Al Qaeda just came back and be like, "Yo, take that out." Enough. So you can't try to push development, and you can't try and push change by trying to flog people. Just doesn't work. And also, we need to look inwardly as well. We need to look inwardly as well. Because before you point your finger at somebody to tell them they are bad and they're bad, look inwardly as well and try to admit that. And I mean, you're not perfect. How can we get better? It isn't just about you trying to throw stones at people. And I think this kind of leads to like that whole like, yo, we gotta cancel people, we gotta cancel this, we gotta cancel that, we gotta. It doesn't achieve anything. What it actually does in most cases is actually make situations worse or make people get entrenched in the various pockets. And so yeah, that's just my take on that. I think it's just interesting to see how things go. And like I said in the last episode, and I keep saying it again, be careful. If you want to go watch it, if you're there, right, just be careful. Just try as much as possible to behave in a way whereby they want you to behave. Respect the way they are, respect what they do, respect how they want the society to be. And just I mean, and just respect that. You don't have to agree with it, but that's just it. If you want to go there, you just have to respect it. I've been in places whereby I know fully well, like, yo, I can't just do what I want to do. I can't just do what I want to be. I want to do. Even as a black man, I know fully well. I've been to places like Russia, and I know fully well, like, yo, listen, before I left, I had to go do my research. I had to ask questions to people. I had to ask questions of people that have been over there. I have to ask questions of people that were born and lived over there. And I ask them questions like, yo, listen, what is life like? What are things like right there? What can you say? What can you do? How do you move around? How do you make sure that, yo, listen, and me as a foreigner, cool. But me as a black man as well, yo, what do I have to watch out for? What kind of areas can I go to? What can I say? What can I do? How do I behave myself? What am I allowed to take? What am I allowed to bring? You know what I mean? Just questions that you gotta ask. And the same thing happens if I'm gonna be going back to like when I go on holiday to Nigeria. Technically, Nigeria's my home, but when I go on vacation to Nigeria, I gotta be careful. You know what I mean? I can't just go around doing anything. It's just not the case because they have a different way of life. They have the way they do things over there. And I have to be respectful. Even though I don't agree with it, I have to respect it. I can have conversations. I can have that. And I can have discussions with people, but I'm going to be respectful of how people do stuff because it isn't my place to want to force people to do shit because it could easily backfire. I could be detrimental to myself and my life. So that's just my take on it. I'm not really watching the World Cup, to be honest. I get snippets here and there, but it's not really for me. If England wins, hopefully we get like a bank holiday. I could do another holiday, but yeah, that's just it for me. But hopefully by the next episode, things will reset a little bit. You know what I mean, we'll move into a bit more entertaining discussions. With that being said, thank you for listening to this episode and see you on the next episode of Switch Done with me, Paul Olowogboye. Peace out.